Oh man, Horikoshi is really doing it all with this final war for the world. This was a chapter complete with teamwork, some fun cameos, and an appearance from Bakugo as well as Shigaraki. Plus more Bakugo character development, which is always welcomed, especially after what we saw with Endeavor last chapter. Unfortunately, we don't get a continuation of Deku as he flies to Shigaraki, or even the restoration of All for One. Regardless, these cliffhangers can wait considering the peak that is chapter 358, amply called A Small Step for Man. And so maybe we will see the tide change in this battle. This latest chapter opens up with Shigaraki using multiple mutated hands and fingers on the battlefield. This bizarre, if not disgusting, abnormality was of course first seen when Spinner tried to check up on Shigaraki after New Order destroyed several of his quirks. Except this time, Shigaraki can't control this mutation and has been giving the heroes a pretty hard time with it alone. The emergence of this ability only seems to give further traction to Dr. Garaki's theory. Now this theory was last discussed during the war arc, so I'll briefly summarize it. Quirk singularity is the concept that with each generation, quirks will grow stronger and more complex until the human body can no longer evolve with them, which would result in quirks that are so powerful, no one can control them. Shigaraki at this point is the poster child for this, considering his own body seems to struggle with the raw power of All for One. If this expands beyond the typical bounds of humanity, seems to have afforded him even more ludicrous capabilities. Right now, Shigaraki is surfing on his absurd amount of hands and fingers. They overrun the battlefield, seemingly destroying parts of the UA floating fortress. He's really making work for Momo and Lunch Rush. But before we go any further, this video is sponsored by the official My Hero Academia collectible card game. They were kind enough to let us check out their latest set, Crimson Rampage. And first and foremost, this box art is incredible. Highlighting the events of the anime's second season, I can't lie, these cards have me feeling pretty nostalgic about the series as a whole. Speaking of which, this is such a great way to support the series, and there's just something so satisfying about opening up these packs. And if you want to take things even further once you've got your hands on some cards, the organized play season is currently underway, and by joining the UGN Play app, you can enter tournaments for the chance to win amazing prizes like rare alternate art cards and Nintendo Switch consoles. Then there's a championship event at the end of the year with a prize pool of $250,000. Links will be in the description for you guys to pick up your very own My Hero Academia Crimson Rampage cards, and even to help you participate in their tournament events. We'll keep opening up these packs and hopefully we'll be able to find a really rare card. Thanks again to the My Hero Academia collectible card game, but now back to the latest My Hero Academia chapter. As he's hanging 10, Shigaraki taunts the heroes, asking if they're going to run instead of face him. I must admit this panel reminds me of when Shigaraki was in his own subconscious. Since the very beginning of the series, Horikoshi has expressed his overwhelming love for drawing hands, and as many know, love, when taken to the utmost extremes, can be a pretty terrifying thing. Just ask Toga. Speaking of which, I still need that Horikoshi horror story. That is if he can handle it, considering apparently the stories he writes so drastically impact his real world mood. But yeah, suddenly a massive mutated hands head straight for Tamaki. He just barely manages to avoid them as Nejire looks on, calling out for him. I will admit that I forgot Tamaki was in this fight, but I certainly wonder what Sunny Eater ate to prepare for this battle. I kinda struggle to imagine what animal abilities would be useful against Shigaraki. But hear me out. Maybe it is a bit cannibalistic, but if Tamaki were to consume some of Shigaraki's fingers, like Yuji Tsusukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen, his quirk, Manifest, should allow him to mirror what Shigaraki's got going on right now. I'm not really sure if Manifest would encompass the guy's quirks, but at the very least his bodily disposition should be temporarily adopted if such a thing were to come to pass. And it would merit his inclusion in this fight to begin with. Kinda crazy, I know, but let me know what you guys think down below. Oh, and subscribe to the channel with notifications on, it really does help out. Regardless, in this fight, Nejire can't stay focused on others either. A clump of Shigaraki's fingers come flying towards her. She tries to fend off the tendrils with her quirk, however that isn't enough. She's pushed against a wall of fingers and begins to fall. Hopefully she sticks her landing and is okay. Though I reckon this battle will end in more than one hero death. Or at least it should. But then again, nobody died against All for One at Kamino, and nobody died against Shigaraki in the final battle of the previous war past his mass decay of the city. Just as Nejire falls, Best Genius reminds the heroes to not give up and keep moving. Staying still will only lead to death in a fight against a man who can change his body at will. Similar to Shigaraki, Best Genius is staying above the hands via his quirk. Shigaraki's horde of moving hands is meant to disorient and separate them. After all, they were selected to support Deku in his final showdown against Shigaraki All for One. Teamwork is all they have. Speaking of teamwork, Best Genius pulls Bakugo away from a rogue Shigaraki tendril. This moment only goes to show that Best Genius is here as support. He's still recovering from his lung wound. Best Jeanist continues to direct the other heroes, stating that the hands will swallow them whole. In order to stop Shigaraki, they must reach the main body. Besides serving to throw off the heroes, these mutated hands act as a shield for Shigaraki's body. Though in this panel, we also see Murako running her way up a tendril as bits of her tail are seemingly destroyed in this endeavor. Hopefully Murako can continue to show off why she is a hero without an agency. As a major proponent of Murako being one of the best female characters in the series, it's good to see her in this chapter, even if it's just snippets. Best Jeanist also remarks that while these massive hands are a roadblock, at least Shigaraki doesn't have all might strength. Truthfully, this feels like foreshadowing. We know Shigaraki can't currently use quirks, yet we've also seen his body evolve to suit his needs. Could he also gain super strength? Anything is possible when your body is no longer your own, but something else entirely. Then we see Ed's shot as he bursts out of a heap of fingers. The move he is using seems to be new, considering it is referenced to as shattering paper thread. Though I must say it reminds me of his other technique, Thousand Sheet Pierce. Sadly, just as Ed's shot destroyed a clump of Shigaraki's fingers, they regenerated. Not only is Shigaraki in control of this insane amount of fingers, he can regenerate them almost instantaneously. Even Ed's shot is confused by this, asking if they're sure this isn't a quirk. In his own words, "You said this was just normal growth, but that's impossible." Due to what we know about quirk singularity, it is plausible this is just Shigaraki's next step in quirk evolution. The erasure quirk cannot dismiss heteromorphic traits after all. Regardless, the All-For-One consciousness comes out to confirm this is simply the nature of quirks. He explains that as the All-For-One quirk settles within Shigaraki's body, external factors as well as the quirks within All-For-One have created what he calls a suitable accommodation. The All-For-One quirk has essentially twisted Shigaraki's body to keep up. While All-For-One is in control, he launches into a lecture as he is prone to do. He starts off by saying that with Shigaraki's body and the All-For-One quirk, he'll create a new world. Within this world he molded, All-For-One Shigaraki will rule over everyone. You really see how mega maniac All-For-One is, considering he refers to himself as a god in this new world. It's interesting how we've gone from Demon King to absolute god and ruler over everything and everyone. Although that whole Demon Lord thing might just be a title he is willing to adopt, considering he is the villain in this story currently, but will eventually become the hero, I guess. He declares the current world to be doomed, a world that will collapse on itself. In his eyes, it's divided with standards that no longer fit human bodies and their capabilities. The gaps that exist between people only seem to grow, which allow misunderstandings to flourish. All-For-One sees these misunderstandings as what causes fear and rejection to rise. All while giving this immensely main villain speech, we see Bakugou as he continues to avoid tendrils, no doubt building up explosive sweat. All-For-One concludes his speech by stating this fight is nothing more than a product of the current broken world. In his new society, everyone will be equal under oppression. He continues to ridicule the heroes by saying this new world of equality through oppression is exactly what the heroes are fighting for. It is a twisted ideal of the peace the heroes want, not to mention, it shows exactly how unhinged All-For-One is becoming. How much he wants to revert Japan back to his iron-fisted rule, and then some. Meanwhile, Bakugou is still dodging All-For-One Shigaraki's attacks. He says that while he doesn't know who is in control, he doesn't want to hear any more from them. He's been fed up ever since Kamino. This statement once again proves how impactful Kamino is. The weight of it can still be seen many chapters later, and even serves as inspiration. Bakugou also has an internal monologue stating that all this movement has allowed an item on his back to be charged up. This particular item was from the support course. Perhaps we'll see more new pieces of equipment from other heroes as well. Finally, we see exactly what Bakugou is referencing. On his back is a massive collection of artillery. He looks like something straight out of a Western comic like War Machine from Marvel. Subscribe to Plot Armor Comics, by the way. Not only that, but his costume, complete with support items, reminds me of his iconic design from the 2019 popularity poll. It's one of my favorite designs despite how complex it is. So perhaps this is a callback to that. The item is meant to act as an area suppressor, something Bakugou will no doubt use to annihilate Shigaraki. Now what's its name? Strafing Panzer. No doubt all the sweat he stored, as Bakugou is still wearing his winter costume, will cause an overarching explosion. Bakugou then exclaims, "I will clear a path." Seeing such an immense source of firepower, it makes me wonder if this was intended as a last-ditch effort. We know heroes are lacking in material and resources, and this support item is gigantic. Regardless, Bakugou unleashes an insane explosion towards Shigaraki, all with the intent of destroying his body. The impact is enough for Bakugou to fly into the air. Showing how much he has grown and how much teamwork means now, Bakugo exclaims that the heroes will crush the main body together as a team. On the other hand, Miruko is still running towards the main body with her signature crazed grin. She is proud of Bakugo for finally realizing what collaboration is and how important it is. Honestly, I'm hoping we get to see more Bakugo and Miruko team-ups in this fight, like in the spin-off team-up missions. Bakugo has really come full circle as his inner dialogue comments on the heroes that allowed them to fight Shigaraki like this to begin with. He thinks of Aizawa and Monoma stopping Shigaraki's quirks, Kaminari powering up the UA fortress, and Momo providing spare parts. Bakugo also thinks back to the first chapter when Deku selflessly tried to save him from the sludge villain. He remembers Shigaraki's words, "Said misunderstandings in turn give rise to fear and rejection." At last we see him recognizing the very fear and rejection he has struggled with since. It is a moment that also serves as a callback to Bakugo crying in All Might's arms because he felt inferior to Deku. Despite these negative emotions, Bakugo has worked through them, worked above them even. As he continues his assault on Shigaraki, he states that he has accepted fear and rejection, showing that yes, Bakugo has evolved past his miserable inferiority complex. Besides accepting these emotions, Bakugo has gotten over them. It's character development that almost rivals Endeavor's. Hate him or love him, you gotta admit Bakugo is well written, saying that he found people who are willing to look past his previous mistakes and only move forward no matter the cost. He finishes his speech by saying that with his friends, what Shigaraki all for one has to say doesn't matter. He also calls Shigaraki a sack of deformed fingers, which feels like an adequate if not crass way to describe his current condition. Best Genius watches this display of firepower, looking amazed and concerned for his young protege. The explosion leaves a cloud of smoke across the battlefield, along with destroyed buildings. Collateral damage is peanuts to eradicating the ultimate evil. But unsurprisingly, Shigaraki is not dead. Bakugo moves in to test his ultimate attack, Hauser Impact, Cluster Bomb. Best Genius is still watching his student completely in awe. He even refers to Bakugo with his wordy, if not mildly dorky, hero title. Finally, he has accepted the hero that Bakugo is, even if Bakugo himself is a bit rough around the edges. Shigaraki is prepared to punch Bakugo, while giant explosion murder god Dynamite is posed to give Shigaraki a face full of fireworks. Shigaraki's own raised fist makes me wonder if Best Genius All Might Strength comment will come back to haunt the heroes. Sadly, we won't get to know the outcome of this matchup for a little while. My Hero Academia is going on break next week, although Horikoshi deserves it with all the hands he has drawn in this chapter. And at that, Shonen Jump seems to be pretty liberal with the breaks lately as compared to the years prior, and although that is a great thing in regards to the health of our favorite mangaka, at this point, I don't for a second believe that My Hero Academia is actually ending this year. I mean, we are already past the halfway point of the year after all, but we'll just have to wait and see. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.